Gallagher.
So, greetings and salutations, people of the YouTube Nation. This is Arpaner, and I'm here once again live, about to discuss player development in football, especially when it comes to bringing up young talent from within the club's rank. About a few days ago, Marc Bartra from Barcelona announced that he would probably be leaving the club after failing to get any significant game time under manager Luis Enrique. And to be honest, I don't blame him. I look at message boards and people are often saying that he was not that good. He's not that good anyway. And to those people, I say that, they also mentioned that he's been on the first team since Guardiola and Tata Martino and Tito, which is a lie. He was actually promoted to the first club, to the first team in 2013, which is when Tito came into the role of first team manager. And throughout that year, there were a lot of challenges. I think there were only like two, two people brought into the club that year. I think one of them was actually Song, and the other one was, that was last year, the year before, 2011. But anyway, the point that I'm trying to make is that there were not that many signings made that year. And Puyol was getting up there in age, and they needed a replacement. They failed to bring one that was of substantial quality, right? And what ended up happening is that Mascherano ended up playing center back, even though he's a center midfield player. Bartra didn't get any game time throughout the year. The only time he was actually called upon was in the semifinals of the Champions League. So imagine if you're a player, right, and you haven't had any game time for the whole year. Then all of a sudden you're called to the first team, well, not the first team, because he was already in the first team by 2013, 2014. You're called to start in a Champions League semifinal against Jupp Heynckes Bayern Munich, which at that time it was like the best team in the world, against the likes of Ribery, Robben. I'm pretty sure most center backs would have had a hard time actually dealing with the likes of those players, let alone, it's kind of hard trying to remember what it is that I'm supposed to say and play at the same time. But anyway, pretty much any center back would have had difficulty dealing with those players at the time, let alone somebody who had not played at all for that year. And who is relatively inexperienced, right? That's the criticism that a lot of people like to throw at him. Oh, that he has not experienced. He doesn't have enough experience. But if coaches don't actually play him, how is he going to get that experience, right? And that's one thing that this article that I read a few weeks back was talking about, especially in regards to player development. That especially in the U20 or U17 national teams, there's a lot of players who are born towards the beginning of the year, January, February, March. And there's a lot less players who are born in the latter months, like October, December. And that is because usually the players who are born earlier have developed already, right? Like if you were born in January and your friend was born in October of the same year, you're probably going to be a lot more developed physically than your friend who was born in October, November. And that's who tends to get picked, usually. And if you're a young player, a younger player that is trying to make it through and try to dribble or do something or commit a mistake or make a mistake, then you get yelled at and you're less likely to actually try something. And that also plays into your psychology, because football is really a psychological game, a mental game. And that's one thing that a lot of the people that I play with have actually told me. That's just pretty much a mental thing most of the time, as much as it is, or more than it is physical. And that's the psychological aspect of it, especially when it comes to having enough support from your manager, actually plays a big part of how you may or may not perform. And that's something similar that happened to the likes of Bartra and even Sergio Roberto last year. Because a lot of people like to talk about Sergio Roberto and his performances this year. He's been able to play in 7 positions, center mid, either side, striker, wing, left back either side. But that was also because he was given trust by his manager, Luis Enrique, in this season. Because last year, Sergio Roberto only played 3 games, and 2 of them were against newly promoted Eibar. And people were saying the same thing about him, right? That he was no good for the team, that he needed to leave. But look at what happened when he actually got 4 games, got the opportunity to play 4 games straight. He actually demonstrated that he did have enough quality to be on the squad. And that's something that Bartra has not gotten for one reason or another. That's what ends up happening if you don't have the trust of your manager. The same thing actually happened to Xavi earlier. He was actually about to leave the club because people were saying the same thing. Oh, he's no good. He only passes the ball from side to side. And Guardiola was there at the time, right? He was still playing. And because he was getting comparisons to Guardiola and people were doubting his abilities, he decided that he was going to go. And he was actually set to go, were it not for his mom, that his mom talked to him and convinced him to stay, right? And the rest is history. But imagine what would have happened if Xavi would have listened to his daughters, which he did actually listen, but if he had actually decided to leave, what would have been of Barcelona and its golden generation, the Pep team, right? That would have not happened because Xavi epitomized the style of play that Barcelona had in the mid to late noughties, I guess. I don't even know. The 2000s, mid to late 2000s. And it seems the point that I was trying to make, that I am trying to make, is that people seem to give youth team players a lot of harder time, a hell of a lot harder, where they expect a lot more from the youth teams or academy graduates rather, and they expect the likes of the Luis Suarez, the Neymars. It seems that they are giving a lot more of opportunity to say if they commit some sort of mistake, which Piqué commits a lot of mistakes, Mascherano commits a lot of mistakes, but they're still given opportunities, and that's something that Bartra actually did not get the benefit of the doubt, saying, okay, like I was saying with player development in U20 outfits, U20 teams, when a player who was born earlier or later actually, because if you're born earlier, you're older. If a younger player comes into the team and makes a mistake, they're criticized for it rather than being encouraged to try again. And that also plays into your psychological development. And like I was saying before, that's something similar that happens in club teams, right? If, for example, you're a youngster that is coming up and makes a mistake or plays a good game, rather, because that's something that I've noticed happened a lot. If you play a good game and the next day or the next game, whatever you do, no matter what, you're always going to have the veteran come in and replace you. Even if that veteran is not really performing up to standard, then that also lowers your morale. That's something that happened a lot in Barcelona with, like I said before, Mascherano, Piqué, and Mathieu, right? Because Mathieu makes a hell of a lot of more mistakes than Bartra ever did. And a lot of people like to bring up the Copa del Rey 2012, 2013 was it? When Bale scored that goal that he actually outpaced everybody, not just Bartra. And I think it was Busquets and even Messi who had a chance to stop him earlier, but didn't for some reason. Messi just let him through. And there were actually only 2 shots that were on goal in that game. Can you guess who had those shots on goal? It was actually Bartra from central defense. And he scored 1 goal. It was actually 1-1. He was the only one that was actually that I saw making an effort to play in that game. Everybody else was just like doing nothing, basically. Like how they performed in this year's quarterfinals of the UEFA Champions League. Oh, almost had it. It was like they weren't even trying, except for Bartra, who was actually injured that game, mind you. And again, this is Bale we're talking about. It's not like it's, I don't know, Akinfenwa. Bale can pretty much outrun just about anybody in real life. But people like to blame Bartra, like he was the only one that he was the only one at fault. When again, he wasn't. And even if it were not for Bartra, they would have lost anyway, because he was the only one that had a shot on goal and he made a goal that day. He was the only one that scored for Barcelona. So I don't know why people keep trying to blame him for that. But anyway, that's something that really annoys me. But now he's decided to leave, and again, I don't blame him. Here he is on the ball. He actually has nothing to envy Piqué, except for the, I guess, coach's trust. That's the only thing. But everything else, he's just as good, if not better, than Piqué. On the ball enough. But again, we go into the same issue when it comes to players trusting their managers. Because like I was saying before, people were saying the same thing about Sergio Roberto, that he was no good, that he needed to get out of the squad. And look what happened when he was given 4 or 5 games straight to play in. He demonstrated that he did have what it took to be in the squad. Like I was saying before, it seems like people expect a lot more if you're an academy graduate. It seems as though if you don't go into the field and score a hat trick and clear a goal off the line, you're no good. Instead of slowly bringing them into the squad and appreciating them for their talent and building them up. Because that's what happened to Iniesta also, actually, now that I think about it. It's not like Iniesta was the start of the squad when he first came into the first team. He was a sub until he was about 24 when Pep came in. And that's when he started playing in the 3-man midfield with Yaya Toure and Xavi, and then later Busquets. But until then, Iniesta, he was actually a sub. He was never a starter. but it seems as though people don't really have the patience to let those young players make mistakes and develop, right? It seems as though we demand everything that we should demand from the big money signings like Arda Turan, like Neymar. We demand that from our youth academy graduates, and I'm speaking from experience, or not from experience, from because I am a Barcelona supporter, right? And that's something that I've noticed, that people demand a lot more from youth academy graduates than they do from the big money signings. The big money signings seem to have a lot more leeway when it comes to making mistakes, like Matthew, like Mascherano, right? Like Neymar, like Suarez even. And they expect the youth academy graduates to take the world by storm in their first game, and if they don't, they're like no good or anything. What the hell's going on right now?
Got it away, and that's what you have to do. Neymar, what a fine save.
Snap. Yeah.
Coming up now, a corner for Barcelona.
So yeah, that's what happens, people. Fans have no patience nowadays. Oh, what the hell?
And he's not let the ball escape his grasp. Well, these days don't come around very often, do they? Defeat for Barcelona might not happen yet because there is still time for a recovery.
Nice.
It hasn't been the Barcelona
Okay, here we go.
we all expect today. Camacho.
And it kind of sucks too, because I like the guy, but there's something off there with Luis Enrique.
Well, they are really knocking the ball around well.
Yeah, there's always been an option.
I'm not saying that they should play him just because, but he does clearly have talent. But like I was saying before, for some reason he refuses to play him. Like I was saying before, the same thing happened to Sergio Roberto. I know I keep saying the same thing, but it's true though. The same thing happened to Sergio Roberto. Even from the two, I thought Sergio Roberto would be the first to live before Bartra.
Shows 3 added minutes.
So, yeah.
Boca. Camacho. Boca.
And this kind of sucks. I wasn't even in the game for like most of it anyway.
Sergio Roberto. There it is, the final whistle. Is it a case of back to the drawing board after a defeat like this?
I think there were positives to take.
Well, I guess that'll be all for now. Until next time, game on.